Well, there, it's a brand new Village Vice. He is Zach Blackerby, but he could be called Zach Backerby because he's back. You get it? Because he's back, because he wasn't
I
with us.
see.
He wasn't with us last
I
time.
thought you were taking out the L because I don't know what those are.
That's a good point. You never take an L, so we just take it right out of there. Zach's winning all the time.
It's like Auburn in the SEC tournament this past weekend. We haven't talked since then. What a run, Brad. How fun was that?
Really fun. Really fun. Nashville was taken over by Auburn people, and they played like it. And I think Janai Broome, not that this team needs anyone to put them on his shoulders, but I think you're seeing the most motivated Janai Broome that you have ever seen. Despite the year that he's had, despite whatever's waiting on him at the professional level after this, Janai is a motivated son of a gun right now, and that has meant trouble for Auburn's opponents.
You can tell they feel it. You can tell they feel it. We'll talk more about basketball later in the show. Hugh Free spoke to the media yesterday, Brad, and of course he was asked a great question about newcomers who have stood out, and he highlighted a few true freshmen. And first off, he sprinted to exclaim and proclaim his love for the 2024 class, which we're all right there with you, Coach. Totally get it. Totally get it. But he highlighted Amaris Williams has had flashes. Malik Blockton has had flashes. Jamonta Waller has had flashes. Of course, all of those guys have one thing in common. They're going to be on the defensive line at different spots on the defensive line. To me, I think that's a good thing because that's probably the position group. It is the position group I'm most concerned about for this Auburn roster.
Well, and it's the position group where you need the most bodies, the most productive bodies. You don't need you don't need just snap eaters. You need guys who can go make things happen. And, you know, if you have 10 defensive linemen that you feel good about, that you can rotate, whether some of them are freshmen or not, then I think you're at the table. That gets you a seat at the table to be able to compete. And you're going to need some of those freshmen to fill out that 10.
Yeah, and I don't think they're done at the position either, Brad. But if you're one of these freshmen, I mean, you're aware these kids are so savvy. Like, they know that that's got to be a question, at least a storyline. Internally, they may not believe it, but externally, that's certainly something that I'm sure they're hearing is like, somebody's got to step up. Somebody's got to help these upperclassmen. And so if I'm one of these freshmen, I'm doing everything I can to say, hey, you know what, coaches, you don't need to go out to the portal and get somebody at defensive end. If I'm, Amaris Williams, or if I'm Malik Blockton, you don't need to go get somebody else at the 3 technique. You went out and got Gage Keys. Me and Gage got it at the 3 technique spot, or, so I think that's going to be it. I do think Auburn will go and get another buck linebacker. So Jamonta Waller, we'll see if he can kind of crack the 2 deep when it's all said and done. But the fact that he highlighted those 3 guys, I think, is a good thing.
Well, they've already added a buck after the presser yesterday. Joe Phillips has moved to buck, and Coach Freeze did mention that. So I think it's
the least surprising move ever, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at his build, you look at the way he plays and his strengths as a player. Yeah, I think we all kind of saw that coming. So I think it's interesting on the defensive line to go back to this point about needing bodies.
Yeah.
Do you want a guy who wants to play 70 snaps a game? Or do you want a defensive line room full of guys where you've given them the Bruce Pearl treatment and you've said, look, come in here.
Sure.
It doesn't matter who starts, who finishes, this, that, and the other. You're all going to be on the field on first down at different points in the game. You're all going to be on the field in third down at different points in the game. We're going to have this thing as evenly rotated as possible if we feel like everybody can produce at this acceptable standard. And you're going to preserve your body a little bit because instead of playing 70 snaps a game, you're going to play 30. But we're going to rotate all these guys in playing 30 to 40 snaps a game.
Yeah, I mean, it probably depends on the kid, right? I mean, a lot of the folks that are going to be in the spring transfer portal, from what we've seen this past year, and there was some like national recruiting media that was coming out saying like, yes, this next window is going to be insane, which it could be. It could be. There could be more starters than we anticipate entering the portal. We'll see. Impossible to predict, like the big picture magnitude of it. But it probably depends on on the guy and the situation that they're leaving, because a lot of the guys that would be rotational pieces that can play 30 snaps a game in the SEC, odds are they were doing that at their previous spot too. It's like, so it's either they weren't playing at an equal playing field or lower, or they were playing some, but they want to play more. So I think it just depends on the kid, and depends on the situation, depends on the motivation that they may have, and also eligibility, right? Like, does a super senior, a guy with 1 year left of eligibility, want to come in and be a role player if his goal is to get to the league?
Right.
I think it truly just depends.
How much more about
which is the
this.
worst answer to give, by the way.
No, it's not.
Because it's not an answer at all.
It's real. All right. So you know more about the draft process than I do, and probably than the average person who's watching. But I want to ask, how much do these NFL teams care whether you played X number of snaps at your first school and then you played a lot in your super senior year, versus, like, am I not just as draftable at just as high a spot if I transfer to, it's a little bit off topic, but it's okay, go with it. If I transfer to Auburn or anywhere else, and I play just as much as I played at the other place, I didn't increase my snaps at all, but I still go test well and I still perform well at the combine and in my interviews and all those things. I mean, how much does it really matter that I transfer to another school and play a ton more than I played previously?
Yeah. So in this hypothetical, are they transferring from Troy to Auburn?
Yeah.
Okay. I do think it matters a little bit, because the number one thing, though, is traits. They care more about traits and measurables than anything else.
Yeah.
But then after that, like, you do have to put film on tape. You've got to put solid production and reps on tape. And a rep in the SEC is more valuable and more informative than a rep in the Sun Belt or any other kind of G5 program. So, like, what Jalen McLeod did was great for him, moving from the Sun Belt to the SEC. But we've also seen it go the other way. Like, not a perfect example, but like Malik Willis, there wasn't a path for him playing at Auburn. So he goes down, plays at Liberty, links up with Hugh, and it was great. It was great. He was a 4th round draft pick. Like, that would have never happened at Auburn. So every path is different. But if you're a defensive lineman and you're playing 30, if you have a pathway to play 30 snaps a game for an SEC team, and your goal is to get to the NFL, you absolutely should do it, because it gives you more chances, one, solid reps against other draftable players, as well as they'll say that this isn't true, but I believe that it is it's going to give you a better shot to get invited to some of these all-star games, your Senior Bowls, your Hula Bowls, your East-West Shrine games, all of that, because they want SEC players there. And, NFL teams are going to, that's when you get your one-on-one time a lot and introduce yourself to a lot of these scouts and GMs. So, you absolutely should do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in, I tend to get lost kind of in the rabbit hole of, all right, 50 snaps a game, 30 snaps a game, huge school, smaller school. I'm sort of the opinion that the NFL will find you. There are enough examples of guys who come 100%. From D2 schools and FCS schools, and if you have the traits, if you can play, like, and Auburn's turned out a ton of NFL guys, and I think schools who send guys to the NFL should make that a part of their marketing. They absolutely should.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the NFL is going to find you. Whether you play 30 snaps a game, 50 snaps a game, 70 snaps a game, the NFL will find you if you are NFL caliber.
Right. Speaking of finding you, fun will find you. Great times will find you when you use our friends at mybookie.ag. You're talking about all the reps. You can get all the reps you want thanks to our friends at mybookie.ag, and they're ready to give you some extra money to bet with. Use promo code next round when you make that first deposit at mybookie.ag, and you can use mybookie.ag anywhere. Brad, name all the places on earth where you can't use mybookie.ag. Just name one. You can't.
I just did. I just named all of them.
You named all of them. That's right. So head over to mybookie.ag. They've got a ton of stuff up right now. with lines regarding the NCAA tournament. I think Auburn has the 6th best odds of the entire field at a 4 seed. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Selection committee, good on you. Good on you. But seriously, head over to mybookie.ag, use promo code next round to get some extra money to play with. And what's the sound it makes when you make that deposit?
Bloop.
Bloop. Yeah, mybookie.ag, promo code next round. Hugh Freeze yesterday talked about an offensive identity. It's one of the first questions, it may have been the first question he was asked at his presser yesterday, Brad. And he said that they're at their best when they're running the ball 55% of the time and passing the ball 45% of the time. Do you think that'll be the proper split that Auburn tries to shoot for in 2024?
That they try to shoot for, yes. That's a broad phrase. And so do I think they'll
You're
try
right.
to
Let me rephrase it. Thank you for just calling me out. I feel so small right now. Do you think that's what they will achieve in 2024?
I don't know. I think it'll be more running than that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I think that
I don't think it's a bad thing, by the way.
Oh, no, I don't either. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think you want to run more. I think in the SEC, even with today and the modernization of the game, you have more success if you run more than that. I don't think 50-50 balance or even 55-45. So last year, Auburn ran 831 plays. There were 513 rushing attempts. So it's like 513 to 318 passing. So about 200 more rushing attempts than passing attempts. I don't know if the split is that much this year, but you know how much I love numbers. I'm a bit of a nerd at heart. They ran 831 plays last year. If you ran, 64 plays a game, that's what it averaged. Auburn averaged 64 plays per game.
I think that'll go up, by the way.
I think you want it to go up for sure.
You need it to. Yeah. Sure.
All right. So let's say they get 70 plays. Okay.
Okay.
Then that means you're running the ball 38 to 39 times per game. Good. I mean, I think
if you take that,
if you want to run the ball 40 times a game, I think you can have a 1,000-yard rusher. I think you can have a terrific offense. And I think in your other 30 plays where you're passing the ball, you have an opportunity to be explosive. And whether it's big plays, stretching the field, possession plays, I think this offense, 40 rushes, 30 passes, is probably what you're looking at.
I don't think that's too out of line, Brad.
Okay.
I don't think that's too out of line. Let me ask you a question while we're talking about rushing.
Okay.
Jarquez Hunter obviously led Auburn in rushing, 909 yards. Probably would hit 1,000 if he appeared to be not fully healthy at the start of the year.
Right.
Peyton Thorne was Auburn's second rusher with just over 500 yards. Will Peyton or a quarterback be Auburn's second leading rusher in 2024?
Yes.
I actually expected an emphatic no just then, and that's not what happened. You said the opposite of what I thought you were going to say.
Emphatically. The RPO identity of the offense, a run pass option. Peyton showed that he can run well enough at times, had big runs against Georgia and Arkansas and other teams as well, showed a toughness running the ball the second half of the season. And I just think that's built into the identity of the offense. And whether it's Jarquez as the primary running back or Damari or Jeremiah or Brian, your quarterback's the same. And so if the RPO calls for the quarterback to keep it, it doesn't matter who's carrying out the play fake, he's still keeping the ball.
Yeah.
So his odds to get the carry go up. And so I think Peyton emphatically will be the second leading rusher.
All right. Speaking of
disagree?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I think it'll be a running back. I don't know if I go back and forth on Damari and Jeremiah. Just because I think it's going to be interesting to see how that pecking order plays out. But, Peyton has said that they want him to run the ball less. He told that to media earlier this spring. We'll see if that's the case. It looks like he's lost some weight. It looks like he's leaner. And if that's the case, you got to think that, do they want him to run and potentially be hit over 100 times this season? I don't know. I also think the backup. I mean, the quarterback situation was way different last year than it is this year. It almost felt like at times there was a stretch of the season where like Robbie was almost a pseudo starter. And I don't think you're going to have that this year, especially the way Hugh Freeze is talking to the media. It seems like the separation between Peyton and then Hank / Holden / Walker behind them is wider than I think the average Auburn fan thinks. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to want to run him as much, but they may have to.
Well, and I also think it's whether you want to or not, it's your offense. If that's your offense, if your offense is an RPO offense.
But Brad, there's a major misconception on what an RPO is. I think the average fan thinks that the RPO and a read option are the same thing, and they are not.
No, they're not.
They are not. They are, you put the ball in the belly of your running back for a split second. You see what a linebacker or a nickel or a defense, whoever the read guy is, and if he does what you want him to do, you pull it and you throw the quick pass or whatever. Like the RPO is not always involving the quarterback run. I know you know that, but I think a lot of fans don't. And they'll say, well, the RPO is going to allow for the quarterback to run more. It's like, maybe on some of them, but that's not a typical RPO call. It's usually either you give it to the back or you throw the quick pass to somebody. Like that's the standard RPO. So I just want to be careful with the way we word that.
No, that's fair. It's not the same as the read option, but there is that part of it. And that competitive quarterbacks with the ball in their hands needing to make a snap decision. So I put the ball in the belly of the running back and the defense dictates I'm not going to hand it off. So now I'm going to pull it and I'm going to look, and my first option for my pass, I just don't feel like it's there, but I've got a lane. And I know I can get this first down if I take off and run. I think you're going to see a lot of that out of Peyton. He's used to running. He's confident in his running ability. And I just think when you get into the heat of the moment and you need a first down or a big play, your quarterback wants to make that play. So I'll just be surprised if he pulls back enough to be anything other than the number 2 rusher because of the way the offense is designed.
I get it. I will also say that I do think there were some runs that he had that the RPO didn't develop the way he intended it to, where it's like, okay, the read is you either hand it off to the running back or you throw it to, whoever the target is that's, being covered or not covered by whoever you're reading. And he would keep it and he would look and he should have given it and then he'd run for 4 yards. Like I hope that drops off a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, I think Auburn's gonna have a good running game regardless, 100%.
Can I tell you about how you can improve your running game?
Yes.
You're gonna have a lot of RPOs, run pass options. Is that that's the ear and nose hair trimmer.
Oh,
he's using it right now.
Wow. You hear that?
I do hear it. You can get a lot done with that bad boy. That's from Manscaped. That is one of the many products.
This nostril's so clear right now.
Right. I mean, and look how fresh and clean you look. You look tremendous.
Wow.
Tremenduser than usual. And you can too. When you go to manscaped.com, you can get 20% off and free shipping on that very item, the ear and nose hair trimmer from Manscaped, along with a lot of other things. I mean, spring break has already happened for Auburn, but for a lot of folks, it's knocking on the door. And it's time to upgrade your below the belt game. It's time. So the Real Flex, keeping your boys downstairs fresh and clean. And, nobody wants to be the guy who's hosting the bush party. You know what I mean? That's why our buddies at Manscaped created the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It is the ultimate weapon to tame those unruly bushes. So
the bush party?
The bush party. That's right. It's not what it says on the script, but that's what I'm going to say. Before you hit that pool party, make sure your boys are groomed to perfection. Join the Manscaped revolution. Go to manscaped.com, get 20% off and free shipping with promo code VICE. You got to use our promo code VICE to get 20% off and free shipping. Let us know in the comments now, as much as you love hearing us talk about Manscaped, are you buying the product? Are you using the promo code? Was it easy as pie for you? Of course it was.
I mean, I'm putting my money where our mouth is. I mean, I went out, I used promo code VICE. I mean, easy.
Got such a great line right now that we really should incorporate into a Manscaped read, but
Go ahead.
I'm
Say
not.
it.
I'm not going to do it.
Say it.
Not today.
Say it. Promo
Maybe
code VICE,
later.
manscaped.com.
Maybe later this week. Maybe
All
later this week.
All right. Auburn basketball.
Mm.
You know, a narrative that I was fully anticipating nationally to form as people, you know, all the experts put out their brackets. I really expected Auburn to be picked to be upset by Yale nationally.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why. I do
People
know
love
why.
to do that. They love to do it.
I mean, everyone I've seen has Auburn going to the Sweet 16, with the exception of a few like Bama people. Like I've seen all the other ones going, you know, some people have Auburn beating UConn, and some people have Auburn losing to UConn, which I think both of those are extremely valid. But I'm just surprised with the national respect from college basketball media towards Auburn right now. In fact, the narrative like Auburn is so much better than a 4 seed. You know, UConn's entire bracket is absolutely loaded, and Auburn was part of the argument that they made for that. It's interesting. And you're seeing all of these posts on Instagram where it's like these 6 stats are the stats that have happened for every NCAA champion, and like Auburn fits all of them. And it's just, it's amazing. It's amazing the vibe and the respect that this basketball program and this basketball team has right now.
We don't use numbers as much in basketball as we do in baseball, but we're sort of getting to the point to where we're at least close.
Yeah.
And all of that math is favorable to Auburn. And then you watch them and you see that every one of their wins, with the exception of one, happens all the time.
Broom just dunked on you.
That's
what just happened.
That's what it's like when you play Auburn. That's exactly what it's like when you play Auburn. And,
wow.
And you know that when you watch. So, no, to have all of their wins, with the exception of one, be by double figures. They're consistent. And Jimmy Dykes called them at the end of the championship broadcast Sunday the most consistent team in the SEC this year, right? When we're in it and you're watching them and they lose at Tuscaloosa and they lose in Starkville and they lose at Gainesville and it's by double figures, and it, you know, you go, oh, they got to get it turned around or it's going to be bad. Well, now the season, now you're into the postseason and you back up and you take the 5,000-foot view. This is a really good team. This is justifiably a top 10 team. All of the metrics say it. The AP voters agree. Like everybody watching this team without an agenda otherwise, justifiably says they're an elite team.
Did you see the Stephen Pearl interview with our friends at the next round about he's like, you know, everybody says that we stink away from Neville, and he's like, I forget which analytics site he mentioned, but he's like, we're second in neutral site games, we're like 7th in neutral plus away, and we're like 12th in the country analytically in away games. And he's like, you know, this whole narrative that we stink away from Neville, it's not true.
It's just wrong. And they've proved it wrong again by the entire body of work. One loss by double figures, one win by single digits. All the other losses by single digits, all the other wins by double digits. You don't see that. And so could it all end in one game? Could they be upset? Sure. But I said this on the show with Taylor the other day. I'll tell you who's upset about their draw. Like Auburn can temporarily use it as a motivating factor. UConn's upset with their draw. They're the number 1 overall seed, and they have Iowa State, Illinois, and they have Auburn as the 4. They look at that bracket and they go, we get that team who's right beside us in every metric nationally in the Sweet 16 game? Come on. Auburn 5 years ago to get to the Final Four went through Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky.
Right.
So, all right.
This path is easier than that, by the way.
It is, but yes, you're right. You're right. I absolutely think that you're right. So we can get into that. If Auburn gets that Sweet 16 matchup against UConn, we can talk SEC against Big East and, you know, UConn's winning streak and all of that. And we got to get there first. But no, that's who I think is really upset about their draw. It's not, should Auburn have been a 4 seed? No, they should have been higher. All of the points that people have made the last few days about, well, clearly the committee picked what they were going to do before. Sure. Okay. Now it's time to play.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Talk about peaking at the right time. The Auburn Tigers are doing just that. Brad Law. I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Remember, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.